Afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this third episode of techFLIX. So we have today an eminent panel representing, I would say, not just the infrastructure, piece of telecom, but overall telecom ecosystem. We have a very good presence of telecom ecosystem here. We also welcome all the attendees out here. Thanks for taking your time. Uh, we just before kind of I formally introduce to the panel and what we are going to talk today. I would of course like to thank Communications Today for being our media partner for this TechFlix series. And of course, we would like to, mention a special thanks to AirMeet. We are proud to be hosted today on AirMeet. It's a Made in India platform. So I think we all need to kind of encourage this platform as much as possible. Before we start, just giving you some context. So we at TechARC, thought of doing a series of these TechFlix live panel interactions with industry to understand the real impact of COVID-19 across various hues of digital industry. And we have been continuing these sessions every Thursday at 3 p.m. So we have already done two episodes where we discussed overall how the operators kind of reacted to this situation, what are some of the things or some of the new normals for operators out there. Then we also in next second episode we talked about manufacturing, how manufacturing is doing, what are the difficulties they are facing out there. And today, we are essentially going to talk about the telecom infrastructure industry, how it is coping up or supporting its operators in this situation, what kind of requests have they seen coming in from the operators. And again, we are going to understand what are some of the things for which operators need to now be prepared, uh, and what's going to be their new normal again. So just introducing you to the panel, we have Mr. UK Srivastava. He is Principal Advisor with TRAI. We have Mr. Manoj Kumar Singh. He is Chief Technology Officer and Head of Regulatory and Sustainability at Indus Towers. And we have Mr. Tilak Raj Dua. He is Director General TAIPA. We will be also having Mr. Rohit Kao in White. He is Director Engineering System at Cisco. So we want today to talk about both the segments, like the entire infrastructure piece, not just passive or not just active. So just starting off with maybe Mr. Dua, if you could just take us through how has the infrastructure industry seen this entire COVID-19 situation, and what were some of the key challenges and things we witnessed during this, in fact, are witnessing during this COVID-19. Just sorry, before you start, just a note for audience. So we will be definitely opening up for Q&A towards the end of the session. And if you have any questions, kindly raise your hand, which you can see a hand icon on the right hand side of your panel. And I will be bringing you live onto the panel, and you could ask your question directly to the panelists. Thank you. Yeah, Mr. Dua.
Good afternoon, everybody. I trust each one of you is keeping fine. I think this COVID-19, which is a pandemic called, has brought, beside many opportunities and many challenges also come. The new normal has brought us and also given us, it has given us the responsibility to change. Now, going digital has become an imperative for any one of us. 23rd May, when the Prime Minister announced lockdown 1.0, I think most of the companies uh, were al- advised to go work from home, which would mean work from home means the huge usage of the telecom services, data network, video conferences, education, e-services, etc., which which put a lot of pressure both on the telecom service provider and at the back end an important part of the ecosystem, which was the infrastructure provided. So, be that as it may, the first thing that I did was to create a situation, something like a warlike situation in the office, so that we could monitor, because there are 600,000 towers which would need, and also the shift was there from center to the states, because we work mostly with the state and the local bodies. The main challenges which we envisaged was, one is the availability of the diesel. We find at many places, we found this was a serious problem, availability of the diesel at site, mainly in the northeast side, which was a serious problem. And in one few places, what we find, the state government only opened one or two petrol pumps, and with a limit of only 500 liters, whereas we needed almost close to 35 to 30,000 liters of it. The second was, since we have to keep people connected on 24 by 7 basis, it was important that the available electricity is made available on 24 by 7 basis. Now, when you say electricity availability, I said there are many challenges came because of the electricity, because the payments could not be made, and if they don't make the payment, the electricity get disconnected. We approached the DOT, we approached the Power Ministry to advise each of the states to defer the payment of this and also reduce the tariff charges if possible, which was duly agreed by all these most of these states. The first state which was agreed was the Maharashtra state itself. Then the another issue was availability of the passes for the movement of the assets, telecom assets, spares, and also the movement of the person, which was very important. And then we, in that case, we liaised with the enforcement agencies, and I would like to put it on record here. The enforcement agency, the Director General Police, they were very, 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 very responsive, and they made sure that the movement of the personnel was allowed in the same area. Then de-sealing of the sites was another issue. At some of the important places, which were our key area where the BSC was connected, where the clusters were collected, we found that some of the sites, for one reason or the other, it was some sites were due to the legal reason. So we approached those state authorities to do that, so that the sites could be de-sealed and they said. Then at some places, there was a manhandling of some of the our field service engineer. I would like to put it that our field service engineer, with all the IP members, be it Indus, be it ATC, they prepared the field service engineer in such a manner, providing them masks, providing them PPE, protective shoes, etc., etc. So they were ready to meet such challenges. So therefore, one was the de-sealing of site, then also preparing our forces to do it. And the other one was there were certain pending permissions which were pending for a long time with various authorities we approached, and some of them have been addressed. Then also there were certain ROW guideline where the states have yet not aligned with the central government line. We have been having continuously a discussion with them. We are almost at a stage to close with them. These are some of the proactive action we taken. And also I'd like to thank the regulator, the DOT, the LSA, the DGPs and authority who have been actually very responsive and proactively supported this so that we could keep everything connected in a very short time and continue to do that. Thank you. This is what I
Okay.
thought.
Thanks, Mr. Dua, for your introductory remarks and obviously, giving us an overview of what's actually happening on the ground. Now, moving on to you, Mr. Srivastava, if you could just, give us a brief of how you, from regulatory perspective, see this COVID-19 situation, and are there any, if at all, you can share any specific requests which you saw coming in from the industry to be kind of allowed or modified?
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I think there are 96 participants joining, so welcome to all of you. As far as TRAI is concerned, our role has been to support the industry, and you know that this is very difficult time through which whole world is passing, and telecom industry apart from the health and law enforcement body, they have worked excellently, and their role is really laudable, because we found that the number of BTSs down during this period have been much less than during the normal period. So you can imagine that how hard people have been working. Those who are working with the association of Mr. Dua and all the telecom service providers, internet service providers, they are working extremely hard to maintain the network. I must inform you that there has been between 18 to 25% increase in traffic in our network, and this has been, and service providers have been able to manage this load on the network, and this is really creditable. Credit goes to them, and from our side, there have been requests with regard to certain relaxations in submission of various, you know, statements, etc., which we have permitted. We have also, we were at some time considering allocation of extra bandwidth. In fact, spectrum, we were doing some internal work. Of course, we didn't receive any formal request from the Department of Telecommunications. Eventually, the service providers had withdrawn the request for additional spectrum. So that was the role of TRAI. Now, what we are seeing is that there is a lot of jump as far as usage of broadband is concerned. All of you know that mostly our usage is on the wireless network. We are among the topmost countries as far as broadband usage over wireless network is concerned. And yesterday's newspaper, I saw that the rural India has taken lead over urban India by 10% in terms of subscription of broadband. So you can imagine that everyone is now hooked onto the network, and this is going to be a new normal, because work from home, study from home, e-commerce, banking, payments, even the court proceedings. There are various applications where the broadband network is going to be used, and therefore the role of service provider, increases manifold. And now, because we are talking of rebooting of whole thing, I know that telecom is already rebooted. It is the economy that is to be rebooted, and the main vehicle for rebooting of the economy, I'm sure, is going to be telecom industry. Now, we have seen that there's a lot of load on the wireless network, and there is a limit up to which you can load the wireless network. So therefore, there is a lot of need, and there should be emphasis in the country on expansion of fixed line networks, wireline networks, and we have to switch over most of our broadband applications on wireline network. For that, there's a need to lay a lot of fiber in the country. If you just compare the fixed line broadband in India and China, it compares by 19.2 million to 449 million in China. If you go by the fiber laid in terms of kilometers, we have laid in excess of 2 million kilometers. They have 38 million kilometers and growing. So now we have to really catch up if we really want to have a society which is totally based on broadband network. Just look at the average speed that we get on our wireless network. It is around 10 Mbps. Only around 10 days back, the report had come, as compared to China's 73 Mbps. Similarly, on the fixed line, we have an average of 36 MB, which compares very poorly with China's 112 Mbps. So these are certain statistics, no? They are stark reality we have to face, and therefore there is a need to bring in more funding in provisioning of infrastructure. And keeping this in mind, only last month we have issued a recommendation to the government that as far as the infrastructure providers are concerned, their role should be enhanced, so that they lay more fiber, they go into individual houses, they should be able to install the in-building solutions, and also they should be in a position to provide active bandwidth to the telecom service providers, so that as far as the financial load of various providers is concerned, this should be shared. There more investment in the network through this infrastructure provider. So these are all the things on which we have been working, and we are finding that this reboot is really required as far as network concerned. We are very proactive and sensitive regulator. Our ears are to the ground. We will certainly respond and give recommendations to the government, support all the players in the industry, including the domestic manufacturing, so that our infrastructure becomes very robust and people get the best of services.
Great, Mr. Srivastava and Mr. Dua, and of course, like without, I think government support, nothing can work, nothing can flourish. Now, moving to you, Mr. Singh, since you are the one who actually gets, a lot of such requests from your customers, who are the operators. So, can you just take us through some of those maybe crazy situations which came across to you during this time, and operators really would have wanted to kind of, upgrade things, change things on the go to sustain this kind of a change?
Thanks, Faisal, and good afternoon to all. And as I see that there is two more addition to the participants after UK sir told, so I could see that I have to speak for two more participants. So what I actually wanted to start with, that we always have a very good experience, and sometimes we claim also that Indus has a very good experience in responding to the natural calamities like recent Gaza, Feni, earthquake, etc., etc. But definitely, we never ever envisaged this type of pandemic which we actually face. So we have very robust business continuity plan, which we say the BCP, which gets revoked at a central level whenever any natural calamity happens. And we presented this business continuity plan with the NDMA International Conference organized last year as well. So, and due to this robust business continuity plan, actually, let me tell you that this Janta curfew was on 22nd. But we started our work from home right from 16th of March. So just recall the date that nobody was even aware, even a day before, that lockdown is going to happen. But thanks to our, you can say, such a proactive and progressive leadership at Indus, that we envisaged that something is going to come. So starting 16th, we were in a staggered work from home atmosphere. So when the Janta curfew and post that complete lockdown was announced, we didn't realize a single jerk into the system. So we were completely on board. So what actually we did, actually what Faisal was saying, that we were actually having feet at ground to support our customers, and that's the customer, you can say we were handling 80 to 90% of the country. So we actually very strategically picked up two things that we wanted, that if we are able to manage two things, we will be able to support our customer. That was, one was the grid power and the second was the diesel. And what we did with the help of Central Electricity Authority, we could get a communication to all discoms across the country to support us. And then what happened, that everybody was alerted to support telecommunication infrastructure across the country. Parallelly, what we did, we actually get interacted at the senior leadership level at Indian Oil Corporation to provide the sufficient diesel. So we have to believe that if we are able to manage these two things, probably we will be able to manage the situations. And with the help of TAIPA and the industry association, we actually proactively, if you see the dated order, we actually proactively engage with the DOT, Department of Telecommunication, to get the letter issued to all the chief secretaries of states of the country, and appointing, not only limiting to the letter, and appointing the nodal officer for each state. Actually, that helped like anything. So whenever we are approaching any state, DDG was supporting us and guiding us to the respective, you can say, central state capital authorities, as well as getting the order issued from the state to the district by states. We also got approached with the TAIPA to police headquarters, because ultimately what happened, because we are ultimately the guys who actually touches the ground. So whatever the biggest challenge, and we had a very good experience in right-of-way policy, that whatever getting issued at center, must be getting percolated at the Naka level. Otherwise, we won't be able to move. So we actually very strategically, I would say, thanks to Duaji and team of TAIPA, that we said not only to the administrators, but also we should touch base with the police headquarters so that necessary guidelines reach up to the Naka level. That helped a lot. And Duaji was referring one of case of in some state where our people were manhandled. Let me tell you that the action, or rather I will say reaction, was within 24 hours. And the things were actually set in order and the movements were allowed. And one very another point which I wanted to highlight, the way we tried to get, you can say, handshake with the government, we picked up right from center to state to district, and then we picked up the local municipal corporations. In Indus, what we did before we contributed to PM Cares Fund for a social cause for this COVID-19, we also actually touched up and contributed some amount from our contribution of not only company but from employees as well. We do not have an exact number, that is also running in crores, and we distributed this fund to all the municipal corporations of the country. And through this, we started engaging with the municipal corporation from the two fronts. A, that seeking support in terms of easy movements, etc. B, we took support from them to get our people trained to handle and move in this type of crisis type of situation. So, because ultimately many of our sites were falling into the containment zone. And I'm very happy to say here that we were even able to manage with the help of PPE kits, etc., and with suitable trainings to enter and operate and maintain those sites which are falling into the containment zones. So that side also we are able to manage because of this personal relationship arised on account of the support which we provided during this time. From the customer side, what we found that as UK sir was saying that during this time the traffic got increased by 18 to 20%, and what we started realizing that the customer request started overflowing, and it was now our turn to respond that. And when we started analyzing every day that what is the pendency, with the help of this technology, what we found that pendency level, in spite of the surge in the request, was going down. It was completely amazing for the management also that our efficiencies and the throughputs gone up, the pendency got down. And I was talking to Mr. Dua yesterday that initially what we found that there was a request for capacity enhancement. And our data shows, and this was presented last week to the management, that we are getting the new build rollout ever highest since we have seen now. So it is not only the capacity but also the coverage piece as well. So then we started interacting with the government that allow our goods truck to move so that we can actually start construction of new sites as well. So this is actually complementing, getting support from regulators, industry association, government, and getting it implemented in sites to support our customers. This is only the way, and then probably, but final output, UK sir gave that in spite of rural India taking over, we are always are getting that, yes, we are not finding any challenge in the speed. So this is all what we did at Indus.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Singh, for your perspective as well. And I think we are now very much kind of aligned. What did the industry see overall? What exactly? How did the regulator see at this situation? And how how you as as an enabler worked really with the customer to kind of come up with the expectations. We now have Rohit also, who joins from Cisco. Hi, Rohit. So now moving on to you, Rohit. I want to understand how did the lights go blinking in the data centers, because your switches, they must have been kind of running. I don't know, must have been crazy. So how were the lights blinking in the data center? Can you just throw us, to that side?
Yeah, I think it was a jolt from the blue, right, for everyone. I don't think anybody predicted that this would be the extent of disruption that will come in, day-to-day life. So it was a wake-up call for everybody. But thanks to all the investments that have happened in the telecom space in the last 5 years, we can see that telecom sector overall as an industry has kind of risen up to the challenge, and without there being any major disruption, right? While Mr. Singh alluded to how the newer sites are now coming up, equipment movement is happening, but with the capacity that was already there, the telecom sector was able to take that load quite comfortably. Of course, we had a few switches and routers going up to 90% utilization, but they're meant for that. But really the challenge, when this new normal was uh, beset on us, I think the challenge at a country level was that today, if you see our GDP is about 12 to 13% of that is via digital means, right? So when we sat down as a leadership team, there were two primarily challenges, right? So how do we ensure that this 12, 13% remains constant, that it survives in these times, and then how do we get incremental people and industries and work groups onto the digital platform. And I think that's where we worked very very closely with the telecom players, the IT enabled services, and government played a big role in facilitating that. Just to give you an idea, right, we were got permission from DOT, from TRAI, to have all the BPO agents working from home in the first week itself, right? So that was something that had never happened in India. And now imagine all those hundreds and thousands of BPO agents are now working from home to reliably now be able to send audio, to send video, to share filing. There was a huge amount of load that came onto the network. And within the first week, what we realized was, we always had this concept of peak and off peak hours, right? In the new normal, the peak hours had gone away. So everything was now a peak hour, right? And there was such a hunger for content, both for entertainment as well as for work, that we were actually we had come to a point of actually breaking the internet. And I think that's where the OTT players came to the party, and platforms like YouTube, Netflix, right, they drastically reduced their resolution so that the stream size became reduced, and there was considerable amount of headway left in the telecom networks to cope up with the load factor that came in as a result of that. So subsequent to that, right, we saw a lot of industries, a lot of things that we do in day-to-day life moving online. My kids' school started in the second week of lockdown, right? There were events like yourself, right, which was happening. There were sports events, right? Coaches were coaching people remotely. So I think the new normal of doing things was upon us, and it was really heartening to see that all the investments that India has made, right, from fiber to tower to power to active infrastructure, right, they all worked seamlessly to be able, and we were able to sustain the load of 1.3 digital Indians.
That's great. That's great. Just a question. I think you would be managing, or there would be around 650, 700 million subscribers, who would be served through Cisco equipment, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, so just to give you a data point, about 60% of India's mobile internet traffic goes through Cisco. 90 plus percentage of traffic, IP traffic, goes through Cisco's gear. So yes, we are at the forefront of it, and touch wood, there haven't been any issues. We've been been flawless.
Okay, before I move on to the next round, any specific example you would like to share with us? Like, you saw something, some specific request for equipment, for service coming from the customers, your customers?
I think collaboration was really the key, right? Getting people together. We had huge uptake, in those kind of services. We have our WebEx, but there was Zoom. There was a lot of other things. So I think that was really the key, thing that we were getting, bombarded with, and to overnight, establish a node. Get it to do UAT, to design, right? That usually takes about 8 to 12 weeks. We actually turn that into hours, right? So that was, I think, getting a request at night to turn a service on, and the service used to be on by 5 o'clock, by 6 o'clock in the morning. I think those were some of the highlights that we will really cherish for the future. And it also was a wake up call for a lot of the businesses also, right? Because of the lockdown that we had, customer contact, right? Every business has their customers, and there is a lot of digital means to cover those and physical means to cover those. So with shutting down of the physical means, a lot of the focus shifted to the digital channels. So there, it was very heartening to see how Indians as a whole, right, about 1 billion people, seamlessly took that fish to water, and we did not see any impact. And that has kind of brought a ripple effect of now on businesses, because of the impact that it's having on their top lines, on their bottom lines. That if we can manage the show with these, do we necessarily need all the infrastructure that we've been putting on for so many years? So I think as we go forward, there will be some things that will kind of die down slowly, but there will be a whole lot of other things that will come up and become front runners in the new world.
Great, Rohit. Thanks all my panelists for the first round where we kind of trying to understand what has actually happened in the industry, and then there are obviously things which are having now staying there, what we now call new normal, and these things are going to stay there. So just for example, some of the changes which we are witnessing. For instance, the demand for the earphones is increasing. Demand for robotic floor cleaners is increasing. Demand for dishwashers is increasing. So consumer preferences are changing, and so are many things. There are many, and I was just thinking this morning that perhaps I was thinking my 7-year-old son, it would be long time when he will be having a Teams account sometime when he joins his career and all that. Now today he has a Teams account. Okay, so things have changed like anything. So moving on to the next round, and before I move to next round, just a note from Professor N.K. Goyal. He wants to compliment TRAI and TAIPA for wonderful achievements of running the network. For the other attendees, I would request that yes, we will reach to the Q&A session towards the end, and you can definitely ask questions. This was just a compliment, a note, so I just thought of sharing it with everyone here. So now moving on to the second round of question, coming to you, Mr. Srivastava. Uh, what what do you see? This current situation is going to change in the long term. Primarily, maybe from infrastructure, telecom infrastructure point of view, for which maybe operators, industry, everybody, each stakeholder needs to get prepared. And can you share some thoughts on it?
No, Rohit was alluding to the fact that certain relaxations were immediately granted by Department of Telecom for work from home facility for the OSPs. And in fact, we had given our recommendation around 2 years back, 2.5 years back on this issue, but decision was pending with DOT. But I must applaud them that as soon as they realized that work from home is going to be a necessity, they issued necessary instructions, and it became far more easier for people to operate from home. Now, if people are operating from home, obviously you have to lay a lot of fiber. You have to create infrastructure so at every home. And now, as Rohit was also saying, and I very strongly feel that many corporates, they will realize that they don't need such kind of infrastructure, huge floor areas, air conditioned, lighted, and so on, and making arrangement for food and snacks for so much of stuff. It's really not required, because if you work from home, you are more efficient. I am realizing personally, let me tell you, most of our work is through internet and through video conferencing. I am realizing that we are working more than when we are visiting office, because when we visit office, we decide to work during the office hours and take very few calls and do certain works at home. Whereas now, it is expected that whenever a mail is there, at whatever time in the day, there has to be a reply. See? So this is going to be a new normal, and if that is so, you have to provide broadband connectivity, fiber connectivity, FTTH. Every home has to be connected, and service providers have to focus on it. There are certain regulatory and licensing restrictions which we are trying to address. I would not like to mention them here right now, but we are trying to address them also, so that it becomes far more easier for people to access broadband facilities, much dependable broadband at much higher download speeds. So our focus has to be infrastructure, infrastructure, and infrastructure only in future.
Great. That's anyways one of the, I think, focus areas of the policy as well, and it's really heartening to know that perhaps whatever industry would come up with, of course, so to say, legitimate demands. I think regulator is very, very kind of kind to give them patient here, and we will get that kind of support. Now, I would like to move to Mr. Dua. So, in your opinion, how would the present situation change the infrastructure, telecom infrastructure as a whole? What are those three, four, or maybe five things which you see are going to stay there for a long and will become the new normal in telecom infrastructure?
Thank you very much. I think we heard from Mr. Srivastava, Mr. Manoj. I think the right word that the team which is used is a reboot. I wouldn't call it a reboot. I would say that we should adopt 3S. That is a speed, scale, and size. What we need to be now in a different mode. The things will not be the same the way we've been working. What will be required is that we'll have to change our style of working, the way we work. One of the most important aspect that will be required to change is the supply chain mechanism. We found this problem during our this one supply chain mechanism in many places. Therefore, the supply chain mechanism will have to be reset. Inventories will have to be efficiently managed. The there will be need for restructuring the delivery and the distribution system itself. They'll have to do it. More importantly, we found another issue, which was you'll have to relocate your warehouses. We found, is it take a case of UP. Now, as far as the state government is concerned, UP is one state. As far as telecom is concerned, there are UP East and UP West. And similarly, there also in a issue came in the MP and Chhattisgarh. We found a serious problem regarding movement of the goods from intrastate, then interstate, and then interdistrict. So that was a bigger issue. So therefore, it has to be now new norm will have to put it up by having a warehouse which is the nearby and also accessibility. Plus, you'll have to again do some automation so that you could do away with all this movement of the thing. The third thing was on the movement in this again movement. The moment I address this, the availability, a few things which will need to be remain available. Somebody said the electricity available. Now, there being an harvesting season, in some of the places we found that the electricity is diverted to the agriculture side. So we had to tap those places. This north was one of the area where Haryana was the prime, Punjab was another one. We were alarmed, and we were also given notice by our IP members there that there is a likelihood that since being end of April and middle April, the whole feeder will be diverted towards this. What they did was they created a change the feeder supply of the electric supply to the IP in a different way. That was another thing. So these are few things which we see: availability, continuous availability of the diesel or electricity, available manpower is allowed to move, passes are given, inter-district movements are allowed, intra-circle movements are allowed. So there, and then the one more important thing which happened was on the electricity, because we pay thousands of crores of electricity bill every month, every month. So this becomes online payment. This became another issue that we approached, and thanks to the chief secretaries of various states who were proactively, he said that bills can be delayed, payments can be deferred. In fact, some of the states went to extend They reduced the tariff by 10 to 15%. So therefore, these are some of the issues we'll need to take. Lastly, I'll again like to introduce is to make sure the investments come. They make sure that the scope of the enhancement of scope for the IPs, which has been pending for a long time, beside the strong recommendation, I think needs to be done, which will also address the issues which are coming, as Mr. Srivastava rightly said. Suddenly, there is a surge in the traffic in the rural side, very surprisingly. I'm using a word surprisingly, it is not a surprise. So therefore, it's important is to address this issue of enhancement of scope immediately beside the issues that we have. Thank you.
So before I move to the next panelist, are you suggesting, essentially on that problem of intrastate and interstate kind of, movement? So are you suggesting that the telecom circles which are there should now kind of be mapped or mirrored to the political map of the country?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying, but I am no one to even do that because we found this problem and which were duly addressed by the various local bodies and authorities. But this problem at one stage became a very serious problem for movement of the goods from one state to the, or even within intrastate became a problem. So we'll have to take care of going forward. And this is new normal. I'm not calling this as a new normal. I don't think there's a time to say new normal. I think normalcy will take much longer than to come. So we'll have to continuously take care of such issues for times to come.
Okay, great. So my next question would be to you, Mr. Singh. From essentially from this passive infrastructure point of view, from tower point of view, what are those three, 4 points which you see are going to be there for which the operators need to be aligned to kind of support this kind of a new scenario which has come up?
Good. And first of all, let me tell that the topic which reboot we are saying, and this is the only industry, I would say the only industry where the topic doesn't fit right. Okay, so there are industries which require reboot, but rather if I have to say that we have been tasked how to change the processor without rebooting. So we have to enhance our speed, and what is actually coming out is that UK sir was saying that the newer ways of working, they work from home. So definitely it is there, and rather what we found that even the government thinking also, it is little bit more expanded. It is not only work from home, but we are now really thinking work from UK home, so that we can also curb the problem of migration, etc., and we can decrease the load on the metro. So this is probably going to be the one very big food for thought for any of the bigger employers who are employing uh, human capital. And also when we talk of work from native home, so definitely it is not only working from home, it is actually necessitating to the olden days, because we are from the we have seen the working from the government sectors as well, that it requires the office at home. So while productivity is going up, but definitely the office structures and office infrastructure definitely gives the comfort of working. So this is probably going to be the next emerging need when the people will start making their houses and renovating their houses. The way we start making kids' house and the theater room, etc., etc., we will not forget to create a working office at home as well. So, having said this, there are certain learning probably which are going to be business as usual for in times to come post-COVID. So, this what we learned, that there are certain activities which definitely require no physical movement, and this can be effectively done with the help of the technology which we have. So, like audit, we do as an audit of the site when we complete, we actually conducted remote audit, remote virtual audit, which is as effective as it was personally traveling by 100 to 100 kilometers. Only what we're thinking is a learning that avoid travel and let's have this virtual audit. And what we really realized that somebody was touching the point of warehouse and interstate movement. Also, it is emerging because that has actually emerged by default. our warehouses were empty and we were in need of the material at ground. What we realized that the movement directly from the OEM becomes the need of the hour. So in turn, what is coming out of that, the time will come when we have a virtual warehouse. So there is no physical warehouse. So there is no need of secondary transport type of discussion. So all this waste into the system is going to eliminate it by its own and definitely bringing efficiency into the system. One more thing, rather two more points which I have is A, that up till now we have been discussing what is the scope of IP1, active, passive, etc., etc. This whole scenario has emerged a new way of thinking. When I say new way of thinking means whatever is to be conducted at field is a one set of work. There would not be a possibility and affordability for multiple people to go on the same side, keeping in consideration that I'm entitled for this and you are entitled for that. Now there is one set of people moving to the ground and conducting entire set of activity. And there is another set of, you can say, operators or customers who are sitting in the back end doing their own planning for the network planning, capacity enhancement, etc., etc. So probably this thinking will barge in now. And lastly, what Yogesh sir said that actually what we realize that fiber has become the necessity now. I have seen even in my living society people requesting me to convert their connections to the FTTH because they are working from home and not sending the speed up to the mark. So everybody, there would be a sudden rush, I can tell you, the one the lockdown is open, there would be sudden rush realizing that without this, probably we won't survive. It is like a water, it is like electricity, it is like the essential utility. So there will be sudden rush, not only from the individual, but from the societies and bigger, you can say, communities as well, to have the fiber at home. And this will not only, I would not say there will be need, rather it will create an automatic type of, you can say, deployment of fiber because whenever there is a demand, there is a supply. So people will facilitate, organizations will facilitate, and we will see the faster penetration of fiber to come. Lastly, this whole thing has actually given a very big food for a thought in all aspects of our working, which is called decentralization. Which a corporate world probably has to go reverse. We have to actually decentralize the activities. People sitting at the same corner, same platforms, and same geography should be able to conduct their activities, and only the outputs of their activities are virtually connected to the central levels. So probably this is going to be the new normal and the new ways of working in times to come. This is what probably we are having as a learning.
Okay, great, great. I want to come to you, Rohit. Now, I want to understand a couple of things, and again, we're talking, on the long-term implications. So, typically, like if you look at the present scenario, we knew which are the kind of office places, so to say. If I talk of Gurgaon, okay, for instance, and operators know how to kind of manage the rush hours during those sites, and so there are those quality parameters met. Okay, now this is all changed. Okay, offices are scattered; they're everywhere. So do you see probably the SLAs, QoS parameters getting changed? Do you see also so to say uh, software defined networking now playing a larger role out here?
To be honest, I think software-defined networking has been around for a few years now, so it is not new to India. And I would say most of the operators today, a substantial portion of their network is software-defined and automated. And and that was one of the investments that I was talking about that has put them into good state today.
Yeah, yeah. So where I was coming was, that moving more to the edge now, rather
Yeah.
than being more core centric.
Absolutely. So if you see, right, Faisal, there's going to be, changes, right, based on this. No matter how soon we come out of this COVID situation, how soon a vaccine, is made, how soon a cure is made. I think you will see some, fundamental changes happening because of this, right? And if I club this into some categories, I think globalization and trade is going to be completely shaken up, and there will be new equations that will come up. Technology and how people and businesses will innovate with technology, that will be another inflection point. There will also be some behavioral shift that will happen in you and me as a consumer of essential services for business or for governance or for entertainment. And together, right, these will lead to a lot of behavioral shifts as so I think that is going to happen for sure, right? And if I translate that, how that will impact technology and business, and how that technology will impact businesses, you will see augmented reality, virtual reality, 3D printing, robots, right? I mean, and remote operations, right? These are some of the things that will really wrap up quite fast. And if I talk about all of these things, right? I mean, you've seen that aggregator ride business is down 90%, right? No surprise, because people are down. And I can tell you from a telecom perspective, the good thing is that on a given, if I compare an average day, fiber cuts are down 80% as well, right? So it's both positive as well as negative. But if I put all of these together, the key thing will be, because I'm completely in agreement with Mr. Dua, Mr. Srivastava, right, and Mr. Singh, that fiberization will need to happen. There is no choice for it. But in a country like India, where you have a lot of geographical challenges, reach challenges, fiber is not going to solve for all the problems that you will have. That's where stuff like fixed mobile convergence, things like edge will come into the picture, because you cannot throw capacity unlimitedly. So a lot of these AR, VR, robots, remote operations, right, will require less latency, because this will have to happen in real time, and that's when you will see the significance of services being driven off the edge will increase, and we are already seeing that. We are having increased conversations with telecom service providers, as well as financial services, entertainment services, government services as well, where edge will play a key role in disseminating the services to a 1.3 billion population that we have in India. So a centralized model will not work, will not suffice. So edge will come into the picture, and I think with COVID situation, the edgification of telecom networks, of business networks, will only further accelerate. And even we are seeing for
What happened, Rohit? Okay, till we get him back, I think we lost him. Let's open up for questions. We can have Rohit's remarks later on. So we already have some questions, and I'll be putting them across to panel. So there's a question for Mr. Dua, Mr. Singh, from Sushil Agarwal. I would request, audience, if somebody has any question. Okay, Rohit.
yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rohit,
So
okay.
a lot of, government steps that you've seen. I mean, I was pleasantly surprised and happy to see that government, whether it is central government, whether it is whether it is state government, whether it is down to the district magistrate level, right? There is so much of services that are going digital, right? Not just for COVID, for tracking people, but a lot of the day-to-day interaction that you're supposed to have with government is also moving online. That again will be another inflection point for services to move towards that. So all in all, I think whether I talk about trade, whether I talk about business, and whether I talk about people and societal behavioral changes, all of that is going to lead to more and more movement towards the digital world, and society and capacity is not going to solve for all of these challenges. Uh, Servicing the customer, servicing the entertainment, servicing people from a governance perspective will need to be happen from the edges.
Okay, great. So now let's, in the interest of time, move to the questions. And I would request, audience, if you have any questions, kindly raise your hand so that we can bring you back, live to the panel, and you can ask the question yourself. But let me start with a couple of questions which are already there. So I was talking about the question from Mr. Sushil Agarwal. Like, It's about we need to live with COVID. Did we get some medical remedy? Hence, any thoughts on new ways of working to work in the new normal? I think we have answered it pretty much. I don't know whether you want to add something, Mr. Dua or Mr. Singh.
Sorry, say again.
Okay, it's about how do we work till we find out a solution? Like how we what are the new ways of working? I think we have answered them pretty
We have
much.
already said that it could be newer ways of virtualization,
Yeah,
virtual devices, remote audit, remote surveillance. That probably we have answered that.
yeah. So we would move to the next question. It's from Mr. Jyoti Bhushan Prasad. It's whether you are satisfied with the support provided by the LSAs in general and in his area, Jharkhand in particular. And are there anything more which can be done to support during present situation?
Yeah, I think this time the proactive and the excellent role that has been played by LSA, I think exemplary. In most of the states, our front face was the LSA only, who are again front ending with the state authorities, the local bodies. I think I would like to say the proactive response and continuous support, whether it is by the daytime, nighttime, morning time, the response has been exemplary. And many places where even the manhandling cases, when we approach the LSAs, that immediately, because you will appreciate that he's giving a government, he has an immediate access to anybody, he can do that. But I would like to place on record they played an excellent role during this period. We hope that this role will continue.
Great, great. So before moving on to next question, we have a comment from Sarma Yanamandra. He's just commenting, saying that it's really commendable for offering no disruption in the entire telecom services, and just lauding the efforts of the panel out here representing the industry. Moving on to another question, it is from Vineet Setpal. It's for Mr. Srivastava. When do you feel the TRAI recommendations regarding active infra sharing will be implemented?
It is in hands of DOT. They have to take a call. Our job is to only issue recommendations. It's like a proposal that we give; they have to dispose.
Okay, sir. Great, great. So, question to Mr. Singh. Discoms are facing huge cash flow issues, and if they don't put the pay the power plant companies, how do the IPs plan to tackle the issue and compensate their vendors working on the fixed fee model in case such a situation arises? This is a question from Ankit Bansal.
So I couldn't relate. Are you talking Discom? Are you talking vendors?
It's generally talking about discoms.
So as far as discounts are concerned, I don't think that they are facing any challenge on that from industry perspective. Reason being, in predominantly they have enabled online payments. Industry is supporting making payments online.
Hmm.
So they have in certain cases they have facilitated for moratorium for 15 days, 1 month. But if I tell you the experience of Indus, we are not enjoying that. Rather, we are making payments and trying to make the payments well in time before the due dates, so that cash crunch should not be there, because ultimately we do understand for the continuing the business, they need cash, especially and bare minimum for their employees. So I don't find that whatever cash you are paying to them is resulting any cash crunch to them.
Now, I think, Manoj, this is one part of the payment that you're talking is. Am I audible?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
See, if I understood his question, another way question was the payment which is due from DISCOM to the GENCOs, the power generating, because
right.
suddenly there is a, am I correct?
Yes, yes.
Suddenly there was a reduction in the load of this one. And as I understand this today, the government is already mulling to create an alternate investment fund to pay off these, because as of now in February, there are around 92,000 crore of money which is due to the discom, and suddenly this lockdown and then COVID-19 and the pandemic, which again there is a reduction in the load. So therefore, government is already seriously, I think, taken up this matter to create the funding so as the discoms and in turn the generation companies get their dues over a period of time. This is what I could understand.
Okay.
Okay, there's one more question, although I don't think that's very much related to this panel. But do you think that there could be any guidelines to the IT companies for occupancy in the offices? I think distancing norms are already kind of being talked about. Like, would anybody here like to kind of add to it?
Yeah, we actually, as an association, we have been in discussion with our IP members. Even as late as yesterday evening, we had sort of discussion with that, that going forward, whether it is the 10th May or 17th May or whatever, how do we go about assuring working in the offices? There are certain norms which are being worked. There are certain SOPs are being. If you look at the central government norm, if you look at the state government norm, 33% people to be work. Now we need to see which are those 33% who should come to the office. The guys are staying, if you have an office in Delhi, people are staying in Noida, people are staying in Faridabad, people are staying in Gurgaon. So that part you have to say, whether those 33% you select from Delhi, are you 33% you select? And if that is so, how is his movement is controlled? And then again, sanitization of the complete office by itself, then the restructuring a seating plan for the office itself. Probably if you may not adhere to 33% of the people, say maybe 40%, still do you need those 100,000 square feet of area? Do you need that or not? So all those things I think we have discussed, and maybe in the coming week we are making some draft which we'll discuss amongst all our members. So we see how we can really be ready to open our offices on a limited scale.